Everybody, it's your hospitality friend Glenn here from the Wyndham Conference in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. I want to thank our friends over at Actable. Actable, they give you the power to profit. Please check them out at actable.com. Awesome. Dimitris Manikis here. He runs overseas for Wyndham here, a place that I don't ever get to go anymore, it seems, these days. I know, feel poor pity for me standing here in Las Vegas.
Come on. Still, you come to Las Vegas, it's like being in the world.
Yeah, I know. It's funny because, you know, you're covering such a huge territory and you have so much going on. And I don't think American audiences realize the difference between how brands are here in the hospitality industry versus their frequency and how they're perceived overseas. So I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about that whole scenario, new areas in the world like EMEA that are opening up, and also learn about brands at the same time, because I can tell you understand branding.
No, thank you, and it's lovely to be with you, Glenn. Look, it is interesting. I'll start with brands that resonate with the American audience, right? I mean, everybody, one of the most beloved brands in the United States is Super 8, right? 50-year-old brand. Every state, every highway, there is a Super 8.
Yep.
For us, we didn't actually grow Super 8 as fast as we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
It was recognized as a very US-driven brand,
Right.
until we opened our first Super 8s in Germany.
Right.
We now have 12 Super 8s in Germany, but what we've done, we actually followed the more Europeanized kind of setup.
Right.
So it's not the actual Super 8 that you see here.
Well,
We adapted
why
it.
should it be?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the audience was different.
Right.
The brand, people love the brand, but they couldn't actually resonate with the way it looked here. in the United States.
That's interesting. So when you're looking at a developer perspective, you kind of have to think through how they're going to perceive it first. So it's not enough, hey, come on down and see what I've
100%.
Right.
100%. So we partner with a developer that said, look, I love the brand, I love the idea, but I want to build my own prototype. I want to build a prototype that keeps the signature items of the brand and everybody feels that it is a Super 8, but I want to bring it to European standards.
Yeah.
And they've done an amazing job. So that has given us the opportunity to be able to showcase the growth of Super 8 across other countries. Now we have Super 8 in the UK. We just signed an exclusive development agreement to bring Super 8 to Portugal and Spain.
Yep.
And a week ago, I came back from Saudi Arabia, where we are proudly announced, together with the support of the Ministry of Tourism, 100 Super 8s. 100 Super 8s.
What a deal.
Yes.
On that. All right, so put a pin in that for a second.
Yes.
Let's take a flight back to Europe for a second. The thing about Europe has always been, has so many more independent hotels than here. So
Correct.
Is it cultural? Is it economic? And what are some of the things that you have to think about? Because if they're so used to doing it this way, coming in to convince them to flag with a Wyndham brand or any hotel brand, it's got to be a different process than here in the United States.
Correct. Look, think about how hospitality started in Europe, right? It was all family business.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to convince a family to let go of something that they've built generations and put a brand on it. It's like losing your identity. But the world has changed.
Yeah.
Family business realized that they cannot stand alone. They realize that they need support, they need distribution, they need technology. And in today's world, that's very difficult to afford. So what is actually happening now? You see a lot of the family business actually turning into the brands and say, I cannot afford this. Can we actually get on your brands that I can get access to all these great tools that you have to offer?
So they're saying, cliche time, I want to be in business by myself, but not for myself.
Exactly. And there is another interesting thing that is happening in Europe, actually. The second generation and third generation of hoteliers are actually not as passionate about what their mothers and fathers did.
Right.
So they
I think that's a natural human thing.
Exactly. And they are either selling or they're getting into professional management or they're getting into the brass.
So what you're saying, I think, for our viewers out there is over the last 20 years, there's a complete transformation about how it works. So all of the old rules no longer apply.
No.
So that's really interesting because that really opens up all these opportunities to bring brands like Super 8 and other family or brands there. All right. So going back to the Middle East, we were just talking before we went on air, you're going into places there and in other places of Eastern Europe, for example, that have been non-traditional.
Correct.
And empty runway.
Correct.
You get.
Yeah. I mean, we We are, as I told you earlier, we are #1 in Georgia, in the country of Georgia, one of the fastest growing hospitality destinations in the world. We're expanding in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. We're expanding in the CIS region. India is a huge opportunity for us. Huge opportunity.
Let me say right now, we were talking about Jeff Bellotti in a a roundtable session. He was talking about how they're growing so rapidly, and here in the United States, you pull off the highway, there's a Super 8. There's another brand. It's not like that in India.
No.
Again, it's just like I was on Route 66 a couple of weeks ago. And I'm like fantasizing about what it must have been like in those early days when the interstates were first coming to get those first pieces of land.
Exactly.
Too bad there's no opportunity like that. But
Exactly.
there is.
Exactly. No, there's huge. Many things in our industry is about timing. If you rush things, they won't actually happen. But if you take your time, go with the development of the country. Just to give you an idea, in India, and I know we jump from one country to another, but
We got a smart audience. They can handle it.
in India, biggest aviation order in the history of aviation, 900 planes, 50 airports currently under construction, new highways, ports, 1.4
This is like China numbers from 10 years ago.
Yes, but I kept on telling, every time I speak to the Indian media, they say, oh, when is India going to become the next China? I said, forget about that. India has its own story.
Yes.
Don't compare it with China.
Yeah.
It will take 10, 15, but it will happen. Yeah. But it will happen the Indian way.
Right.
And that is the important thing. People are rushing and they're saying, oh, I want to be the next X. No, build your own story.
Right.
And India is actually doing that at the moment. And we're fascinated to be part of that journey.
Yeah, and it's not about building your own stories. How is like Wyndham Rewards and all of that going to kind of tie in?
Look, you need, Wyndham Rewards is a community, right? What is a loyalty program? A loyalty program is a community that connects people.
Yeah.
Connects people that they have the same views, the same values. They actually travel the same in many extent, and they appreciate the brands that connects them. And that's what we use Wyndham Rewards. Wyndham Rewards is not a passport, it's a community. Yeah. It's not just a loyalty
passport. That'd be pretty cool. But
exactly, it would be pretty cool. But it's not a loyalty card that you just add it to your wallet. It's actually a community, and that's what we're trying to do. As I told you earlier again, I was in Astana, in Kazakhstan, and everybody said, oh, what can you do for the country? I said, I'll tell you what, we're going to introduce Kazakhstan and Astana, that beautiful location,
to the world.
Bravo.
To the 1.5 million
Wyndham Rewards.
That's it, right. And that's really how it ties in. And I see all of these major companies trying to sign up as many people, but I haven't really been able to understand how that really translates into getting people to go to hotels every single night. It seems like a lot of it's perfunctory as opposed to connecting to something special. And you guys just did a deal for more experiences with like Live Nation and Madison Square Garden, stuff like that, which I think is great because it brings you towards connecting all of those dots on how people live their lives to how they want to stay.
Look, in the past, loyalty clubs were all about accommodation. Now it's about experience. Now it's about all these soft points that you've got across the world that they're not necessarily tied up to an accommodation, but people still want to experience. So if you want your points, for example, you go to an Adele or a Taylor Swift conference, why not? That's what the community wants. That's what experience is all about. So for me, this is the new era of transformation loyalty clubs.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love it because that's the way that you can really add a lot of value to the community.
Yeah. And it is all about community.
That's what it's all about. Because there's so much choice in the world, right? We have choices for everything. You buy a slice of ham and you have 10 different choices.
There's a book out there that came out something like 25 to 30 years ago, The Paradox of Choice. And the whole fundamental is that we have too much to choose. It kind of freezes us, right?
So what is important? Why would they choose you? Why would they choose us?
Yeah.
That is the fundamental message. We need to convince those consumers why we make sense versus somebody else. That is the fundamental where you really can make a difference.
That's great. Well, I should say that's Super 8. Oh.
All right, I love that.
All right, Dimitri, anything else here? Do you want to?
No, what I said this morning. Yeah. I'm extremely blessed and privileged because I've served this industry for 35 years. And we're the industry that connects people. We're the industry of fun, peace, and happiness. And I hope that that your audience will remember that. That's exactly what we do.
Fun, peace, happiness, travel, and hospitality, I think, is what can make all of humanity.
Exactly,
Right?
exactly.
The more that we are with other people, the more we realize it's all just the same.
Because we all realize that we have nothing to divide us. Actually, we have thousands things to unite us.
Yeah.
And it's only cultural exchange and getting to know other cultures better is that can help that. And that's what we do. That's what we do every single day.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
very excited to be there.
Dimitri, you are an awesome personality. Thank you all for sticking to the end. And since you were so good to listen to all of this, now I'm going to ask you to like, subscribe, and all of that kind of fun stuff. Share this video. I'm Glenn. That's Dimitri. See you next time.
Thank you. See you next.